Hey guys, it's Thomas from CompetentCoaching.com, and today we're going to talk about what foods to eat to feel more energetic and to feel more alert. Something that's undisputable for your well-being is the quality of your food. One experiment even showed that in students who ate vegetables in larger amounts than their counterparts who didn't eat vegetables felt better on a daily basis. In that research, they showed that the more vegetables they ate, the more vegetables and fruits they ate, the better they felt as a dose-response relationship. And this was true up to 7 servings of veggies and fruits per day. So it might not hurt to increase your vegetables and fruit consumption if you are not already eating plenty of them. Now, what other factors do influence the way we feel and the way we mentally function? One big factor is the actual size of your meal. Meaning that bigger meals with larger caloric content tend to make people feel sleepy. In research, this is called postprandial somnolence. You might experience this if you have a large meal, and half an hour or an hour later, you get really sleepy and you get really drowsy. Now, this is also dependent on the time of day. For example, if you have a big breakfast, some people might get away with that fine and don't feel sleepy at all. Other people might get very sleepy at that time. Some people this happens for lunch, and for most people it happens at dinner. If they have a big dinner, you get very sleepy afterwards. Now, a lot of people ask me what they should eat or how long they should eat before a workout. What I usually tell them, since it's a very individual thing, where some people can get away with a big meal right before training, other people need to if they have a big meal, they need to space it longer away from their training session. I'm a good example of this. I can eat a big meal, but I need to wait for at least 2 or 3 hours. Otherwise, my training gets really messed up. I don't feel well, like my stomach doesn't feel well while training, and I get very, very sleepy and not very alert, and have less productive training sessions. Now, if we look further into the macronutrient composition of the meals and which macronutrient has which effect on your cognition or on your mental capacity, what we can say is that higher protein meals and meals that are high in protein, low in carb, low in fat, tend to make people feel more aroused, more alert. This can also mean that if they have a high-stress job, they feel more anxiety and they're easier stressed than if they have a balanced diet in general. Now, a lot of studies give people just one meal and look at how they function. For instance, they give them a high-carb or a high-fat breakfast and then test them on various cognitive measures a few hours later or a few minutes later. And what we know there is that higher carb meals, so a meal that's low or moderate in protein, low in fat, and very high in carb, for instance fruit or cereals or sort of that nature, those kind of meals tend to make people sleepy. Those type of meals tend to have a very calming and almost sedating effect. Now, this is especially true in females, whereas males tend to feel more calm after a high carb meal. Females tend to feel very sleepy and very lethargic. This is also true in my anecdotal experience. Women tend to do a bit better with a higher fat diet, also for their well-being. Now, we have too little research on high fat and high carb diets in the long term. There is one study that showed that a higher fat versus a higher carb diet in obese individuals who were trying to lose weight over a few weeks showed that the people with a higher fat diet had a better perceived quality of life and generally felt better. Now, here too we have very, very different outcomes for various individuals. For example, there are true carb hyperresponders. This means these individuals tolerate carbs so well that if you give them a bunch of carbs, they literally feel restless and need to move around, and it doesn't sedate or calm them at all. Now, other people, this is generally true for more obese individuals or insulin resistant individuals, they tend to get very, very sleepy after a high carb meal. Now, another interesting thing is that very stress-prone individuals, so people who experience a lot of stress on a constant basis and are very fragile in their dealing with their emotions, so someone who has a job interview and is very, very anxious for that, for those people, a higher carb meal might actually be better than a balanced meal. Because of the very calming effects of carbs, this can be very useful in a situation like that. Another situation where a high carb meal might be very beneficial is just before going to sleep. Now, contrary to what popular belief says that you shouldn't eat carb after 6 p.m., just total bullshit. You can eat a very high carb meal right before you sleep, at least if you can tolerate eating a big meal and then going to sleep. Because the carbs are going to have that effect of making you sleepier, and most people find it easier to fall asleep. Now, what I can recommend to you is that you experiment with various meal compositions on various times of the day. And a really important factor is really how well you tolerate the food and if the food is of high quality. That seems to be even more important than the single macronutrient, whether it's a protein, carb or fat dominant meal. So if you have any more questions, let me know in the comments below, and thanks for watching. Don't forget to give it a like and subscribe to the channel if you like it, and see you in the next video.